So the very first Christmas my wife and I spent together, I wanted to do something special, but I didn't have a lot of money, but I went out and bought a little Christmas tree ornament to commemorate the occasion. And then every year since then, I've kind of continued the tradition. Well, this year, I wasn't too thrilled with the commercial offerings for Christmas tree ornaments, so I decided to build my own. This is the second Christmas we've spent in Chicago, and I wanted an ornament that was Chicago themed. So I built this Chicago city flag ornament out of pallet wood using nothing but simple hand tools and an electric drill, and I'm going to show you how I made it. I started with a piece of pallet wood that was 7.8 centimeters, 3.1 inches wide. And I used my little miter saw to cut a short piece from it. I used a piece of scrap wood as a sacrificial backstop and used the miter saw to cut the piece of wood thinner because the pallet wood was too thick. This wasn't very easy, but it did work. I stopped cutting when I was almost all the way through, then flipped the piece around to cut off the last bit. Then I set up a stop block to cut strips out of one of the thin pieces of wood. I cut 4 strips to a width of 0.866 centimeters and 1 strip to twice that, 1.732 centimeters. There's a link in the description to a template with the dimensions for several common sizes of pallet wood. I sanded the pieces down to 120 grit and added a little chamfer to all the edges as a decorative touch. Then I glued the pieces together one by one. When it was all dry, I drilled a small hole in the top. I used craft paint to paint the ornament, but I thinned it about 1:1 with water to about the consistency of milk. I wanted some of the wood character to show through the paint. My paint mix was a little thin, so I did a couple of coats, but that worked well because I could get the exact look I was going for. And I did the same thing for the light blue paint. I made a stamp for the stars using Blick Ready Cut, link in the description. I placed a piece of transfer paper over the block material and put the template on top of that, and traced the stars with a ballpoint pen. Then retraced the image directly on the block with the pen. Then I used a block cutting tool to cut away everything except the stars. Then I got a piece of scrap wood and used contact cement to stick the block to the wood. I rolled out some red craft paint onto a piece of glass with a hard rubber brayer and sprayed it with a little water to thin it out a little, and rolled it out some more. I dabbed the stamp onto the paint to load it. I could have used a regular stamp pad, but I didn't have a red one. Then I stamped the stars onto the ornament. When that was dry, I added a festive string and hung the ornament on the tree. I think the ornament turned out well. I like it, my wife likes it. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. You can also subscribe to keep up to date with my newest videos. Thanks for watching. So this is the second Christmas we've spent in Chicago. This is the second Christmas we've spent in Chicago, and I wanted something Chicago. This is the second Christmas we've spent in Chicago, so I built this Chicago city flag ornament. Stay down. So this is the second Chicago. This is the second Christmas we.